start recording.
Okay.
All right, it is Sunday, the 23rd, 24th of January, and you are Allie slash Alex slash Aloysius, Alabaster. It's funny, I tried to sometimes, I wanted to say that to Allison the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, that's Allie's nickname, I can't say that."
Can't do that.
I know, I didn't, and it was funny because I'm thinking like, are you over there having a weird conversation with yourself? Never mind, you're not Aloysius. And that's what I said to her. She's like, okay. And goes in the other room, like, that's weirder than normal.
Yeah, you just had your own moment there.
I know, that's a basic gives. He's like, and walks away. Or she'll go, I love you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm used to this.
Thank you.
So, once again, I appreciate very much that you're doing this and making time. I know you're two little bit, in energy level sometimes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
all that fun stuff. But so a little bit kind of what I was telling you is, I've part of the reason why how you have impacted me is even when I wasn't really wanting to be on the journey with God, I wasn't full on ignoring him, but we would have a lot more fights. Seemingly, life would still happen, and I would blame him if it didn't go my way. Like,
Yeah.
and but I always was very grateful for whatever reason. Because when I met you, it was just very much like, click with him.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't think we're opposites. I mean, there's a lot of things about us that aren't necessarily, you wouldn't point out, oh, those two are really buds. Basically, we're both like Oompa Loompa sides. That's about it.
Yeah.
Like you shop in kids' clothing. Well, height-wise for me, width-wise, not so much anymore, but but I've always just felt very connected with you and very grateful that I was able to be authentic, and I was authentic with my relationship with God at that point, even though it wasn't where I wanted it, I wasn't necessarily proud of it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel pressured.
Right.
Like when your dad wrote that book, God is great and people suck. Like you told me about the book before you finally published it, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds awesome. And you're like, yeah, I want to give you a book to read. And I was like, and then you gave it to me. I was like, ooh. And I was like, okay, put it in the drawer.
That's
And part of it is that's on my list this year. So one of my goals this year is 13 books. Ingest 14 books. So I did 13 books last year.
Oh, okay.
So I finished 2 so far. It's still January, so I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I say ingest because I also like the Audible.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, right.
But so that was a huge impact on me. So I never felt judged, and I always felt you let me in. And I'm not going to give away all your secrets, but maybe one of your secrets is that that's not your favorite part of yourself always. Is that you feel very beautiful. You are very, I don't know a good term for that, but I don't want to say sensitive because it's not. You are though. You know what I mean? Like you have a huge heart. Like I know, and that by that vision, that acknowledgement is it's not always your favorite quality.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I never felt very honored that you just were like, okay, so here's all of me. Even though I just want you to know, not everybody sees it. Better be careful with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've lived up my end of the bargain in honoring it and stuff, but it was always just really cool because even if we didn't necessarily see each other every day, or when you're not around, I still think about you and pray for you and your family and like some weird stuff will pop in my head and I'll giggle. Or and I was thinking, well, I try not even to come up with what we're going to say on these because if it's from my heart, it's going to come out.
Right.
I'm very much trying to do that now, and it's kind of interesting because I feel somewhat more like a hippie because I'm like, I'm just going to keep going my heart, I guess. But one of the biggest things that I appreciate about you is that when, when I left the gym and you were the only person home,
Hmm.
and what you said was I just heard a little bit that you're not coming in. I don't really know why. I wanted to talk. You, like I said, you're the only person.
Yeah.
And to have some sort of somebody reach out and love
Yeah.
you was so important and so, you know, meaningful. And I think I told you that that day when you threw that party, you guys threw that party, and you called me to say come in or whatever. When I saw you call, because I got there early, which is not my forte, and I was so excited just to see you to give me stuff back. Like I thought that was the premise. You were going to just give me things back, but I dressed up just so I could see somebody who I cared about, who that connection was still there. And when
Yeah.
you saw the phone ring, I thought for sure you were going to call and say you can cancel.
Yeah.
And I was so scared, and just to know how genuine and authentic your care for me was, and how what I also like is you didn't just say, "Oh, everything everybody says, I'm sure is crap." You said, "Yeah, there's some things that you did not do well."
Yeah.
Like, when I would admit something, you're like, "Yeah, that's not good. Yes, you need to be doing that different." you know, but
Yeah.
you weren't like piling on. Once again, like
Yeah.
when you say something to me, I know it's been thought through. You probably dissected it 7 or 8 times. And then you're probably almost annoyed with yourself. So now you're just going to say it and not care how it comes out because you're like, I'm like, this fight I have. I'm not just going to tell you.
Yeah.
And, and I value that. Like,
Mm.
when I say stuff to you, like, when I said I cared about you, whether you were an athlete, whether you were a coach, whether you stayed with us, whether you left, whether you did anything, I truly meant it.
Yeah.
And I knew that reciprocally. Um, and once again, like I said, as soon as you called and said you need to make time, whenever that's okay for you, and you met me where I was, only because out of pure love, not out of anger or selfishness or whatever. You were just like, you know, that depth of you,
Hmm.
that connect, you knew it, that
There
connection
it is. Yeah.
was what I value. And
Yeah.
you don't have that with a lot of people. Like, I'm very
Yeah.
friendly with a lot of people, but there's not a lot of people I would open my soul up to
Yeah.
100%. And you always were.
Yeah.
And most of the time, whether you wanted to or not, I became that person too. And like I said, I always was very grateful. And it sounds like, yeah, she's struggling. She's gonna share with me. It wasn't like that. It was,
Yeah.
I knew I was blessed at the time to have a relationship with
Yeah.
her. Because I wasn't so God centered, I wasn't always aware in the moment of how big the moment is. So Les Brown, I don't know if you know who Les Brown is, motivational speaker, and he's a guy that you and he's Christian stuff, but he talks about, a lot of times we don't know the importance of the moment in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and, and with you, more often than not, I was aware. And I was, little stuff like you riding the motorcycle for the first time and
Right.
just just weird thing that, yeah, everybody else was there saw it, but it was just different because I was like, I knew how, I knew that was, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I might only go 35 on the way home, you don't know, you don't know. And, like to me, yes, it's impactful to have those giant moments, but that's not, that's to me, that's the fallacy of people thinking they're impactful. Like,
Yeah.
I don't do these amazing things. I don't do that. You on a daily basis or sometimes once a week basis, when things were the way they were, when I could see you, even if you were in a corner and I was in a corner and we were just sharing somewhat space together, those moments were super important to me. And I'm very blessed and grateful for those moments because, like I said, they're not, I don't get to have those now.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to have them in the future, whatever, it's going to be different and that's okay. But um, to me, that's a big reason why I've been so impacted by you is that, telling a little bit about your story though, you being such a very, very good athlete, especially in CrossFit, and competitive by nature, um, that's not a secret, so that one I can say. Um, to feel the calling to put family first and have babies,
Yeah.
and knowing the first time, yes, I think cerebrally you understood what it might do to your body, but the second one you knew. You were like, oh, I know what I'm in for. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I can't do look. Oh, look how hard it is. I can only do one. Stuff like that. Yeah. But I think you were such a positive impact on so many more people at that gym. Like what what was so special about that gym? The people. And
Mhm.
the people who made a difference. Like heck. And just coming like she still sends me stuff and I make sure to say, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to her and stuff. And life changing, connections an hour at a time. Or, in what I like is because you knew you wanted to be 100% wherever you were, and you didn't want to halfway anything, and you didn't want to, because when you're there, you want to be connected to that moment. And to you, I know you said that that's important, and that's why you're like, it's not able to happen with doing the gym, even some classes, and still being the mom and being the family, and still working out and having any type of mental health and not
Yeah.
and like, and so for you to be so honest with yourself and accepting of just because I'm not doing that right now doesn't mean I'm never going.
Yeah.
Trusting the process. So when you called on me, um, and you're like, yeah, I'm driving home after doing something amazing, which once again, taking care, sounds like taking care of your sister
Mhm.
to be a bigger part of her life because that's what she needed to be best for her at the moment. Even though it was not easy and definitely not comfortable for anybody. And you just drove, and now you're like, hey, I'm gonna drive home alone after driving. Yay, so 4 hours, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah.
To be, you know, able to be that for you was really, really awesome for me. I was smiling throughout the whole thing, and I was jazzed, and I realized, wait, 12:30. And you're like, yeah, I'm home now. I was like, what? It's so cool.
Yeah.
And to me, that's nothing compared to how much you fill my heart.
Mhm.
And you know, I know sometimes you may not view yourself as a mom. I know sometimes you even air quotes sometimes. But that the example you're setting, not just for your kids, but for Alex and for
Mhm.
any woman athlete or anybody who has morals, anybody who has principles, anybody who has ideals, anybody Christian and not Christian. Like so many huge. And it's really to me it's really important to let that shine, especially nowadays, because even though it's not 2020 anymore, I know people really want 2021 to be like a magic light switch,
Yeah.
and it's not.
Hmm.
Just how you live your life by your morals and by your beliefs. It's it's inspiring.
Mm.
It's super uplifting, and I very much appreciate you. And like I said, I miss my friends.
Hmm.
I struggle not being around. And like
Yeah.
I said, a big part is selfish because when I'm around you, I'm a better dad, I'm a husband, I'm
Yeah.
a Christian, and I'm in a better mood.
Yeah.
And usually I'm probably giggling or talking to myself because I'm like, man, she was upset. That was fun. Oh boy. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure because the text doesn't do it.
Yeah.
The only thing we really have is time. And time is it.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I take time to tell people how much I care about them because
Yeah.
I do it. When my parents both got COVID, my dad got super bad. I was like, I might have to fly down, but now I'm risking getting COVID. And then when I get home, like, how do I weigh loving my dad, loving my kids and my wife? And it was a
Yeah.
struggle. So I'm like, God, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do. It, and luckily, thank God, he's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to take advantage of the time I have.
Right.
I know several times I've asked to reach out to you and whatever, get together, do something, and whatever happens, happens. And that's where the trust in God part sometimes is not my favorite because I'm like, I'm gonna talk to her again. What's up? Like,
Yeah.
like that's gonna be a problem, whatever.
Yeah.
But once again, I know it's not all about me.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not all about me. And so, like I said, I think I'm pretty sure you knew I felt this way about you.
Hmm.
But I also think it's important to once I stop being lazy and figure out how to promote these and get it on the internet and not have 19 subscribers. I love my 19 subscribers. I don't even know who all of them are, and that makes me feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's exciting. But
Yeah.
you're one of the people like, I want to share with people. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes I know that's not your jam, and you're like, hey Jeff, we're gonna just be you and me tonight or not anything at all. Okay? Because I might have to kill you. Because you want everybody to spend time in my lane as I'm working out, and it's not happening right now. Like I'm gonna go throw up in a bucket. So having people around me supporting me is not where I want to be. Not one of the times I thought you wanted to share stuff with me besides punching and throat stuff. But yeah, so that's my 16 cents. And
Yeah.
I want to say it concise. I think part of the reason why I'm being a little more flowery, talking more, is because it's a lot. And I don't always want to just get on here and ball and be like, you're the best. Because one of the things, commonalities that everybody who I've interviewed with this connection, humility, and all of you are like, interview? Oh, okay. As
Yeah.
opposed to, well, about time you got me on camera. Like, what is wrong with you? No, you know,
Right.
and so it's not because I'm such a great, you know, person who can choose people, you know what I mean? Be like, oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
God has put such amazing people in my life that I'm aware of how blessed I am by grace.
Yeah.
It's unmerited favor. It's not, I know I don't deserve it. I spent time with myself.
Yeah.
When nobody's around, I know what I think and say. So,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's, I want you to know that even when you're not hearing me tell you on a weekly, daily basis, or that you have made a huge difference in my life, which is in so many amazing ways, and that I'm very grateful pretty much on a daily basis. And definitely every time I try to come up with a new nickname for my daughter, and on that basis, it helps me think of you, and it just makes me smile.
Yeah.
And then I think of all these cool things, and then I almost get overwhelmed, and then I feel weird because I'm like, I'm all sobbing over here because I'm grateful that I know her, and then like sometimes I don't necessarily make more of an effort to reach out, or but then it gets that weird thing, like I said, I don't want to necessarily all be what I want and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And it's whatever, it's testing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so you can now your rebuttal time and whatever you want to say. You can say, but I just I just want to get it on that you're a huge-hearted person, but you really do live by your convictions.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite things about you that I think you appreciate but you don't always like, I would say that nice times, is that when you get new information, you don't just settle for old information and that's it. You're like,
Mm.
well, let's see if this new information fits better.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly, I will say,
Yeah.
but you do. Like, you embrace that. You're like, well, I'm gonna test it. That's it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's hard. That's the
Yeah.
hardest. Like that's the inner. That's like, okay, I'm gonna question my beliefs because I have some new information. Let's test it on my beliefs.
Yeah.
Scary. Well, that's scary. Like, not gonna bolitas. Jacob's learning Spanish. Bolitas is scary as balls, but it's like it's scary. And,
Yeah.
and once again, I think courage is not the absence of fear. It is the
Mm.
ability to act while afraid, and I think you do that. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, a pinpoint reason why
Mm.
I admire you and I look up to your walk, especially with God. That I see it being like this journey, and that's just the stuff I get to see. That's not even
Yeah.
the stuff. And,
Yeah.
and yet you're still like, oh, I'm still true to that journey. I'm still true to the journey. And it's so cool and amazing. And
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to be part of, this is where it gets weird. I think I'm going to be part of something big for you. And I don't know what that is.
Mm.
Always felt that with you.
Mm.
Why? I don't know what it is.
Hey, maybe I'll be a master's athlete.
I don't know, honestly. It's weird. But it's one of those things that God's kind of like, hey, I think you're going to be part of her life. And I'm like,
Hmm.
sure. Like, spend more time with her. I'm in. I can sign up now.
Yeah. Can we work on it now?
Well,
I don't know what it is, but now.
yeah. Well, that's part of the stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. Because I don't want to say stuff because I don't want to seem pushy.
Mm.
That's why I've come. Yes, I'm a life coach. I'm really embracing being a life coach, but I'm really kind of like my mom just said. I'm a missionary.
Mm.
A lot of weight and stress and weirdness, even though it should be
Yeah.
nothing more than I do, but it's a label, but whatever.
Yeah.
But but I'm an advocate,
Yeah.
and that's what I love to do. I love building people up and sharing people's amazing because
Yeah.
I've been blessed to be able to see that. Like to me, that's one of the gifts God gives me. Is I'm like, I saw you.
Mm.
Yes, you were amazing an athlete.
Yeah.
Geez, that's a lot of wickedness right there. And so I don't know what that's gonna look like. I hope it's
Yeah.
true, but you know,
Yeah.
there's my 16 cents.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool that like you're pursuing doing this because, like you said, like the things that you are good at and that you've embraced more as far as pursuing God and that being the center, then there's clarity in how you're supposed to use that instead of being spread thin and stress and like sometimes things not working. And there's still going to be issues or things that you have to deal with, but there's clarity. And I feel like that's something that God rewards. And he talks about that, like, seek me and you will find me. It's not like, kind of look around and then you'll find me. Like, seek me, pursue me, and you will find me, and like, that's something I have pursued all my life. And so I feel like I do have clarity, and there's things that come up and you have to wrestle with decisions. And I pray for wisdom and discernment almost every day. I want to be wise, and I don't want that to be based on my age. Like, I've wanted to be wise even when I was 20, now almost 30. Like, I want to be wise and like for the Lord, not for myself. But like, so to be able to see that you're gifted in connection, I think it's a great word for you. um and it's not for yourself, it's for like God's glory. But like, the reason why people are so amazing is because they're made in the image of God. Like, so you're just reflecting who they are, their God-given qualities, to the world, and almost like then putting God on display. Because like, look at this person, look at this person, look, like, that's God's workmanship.
I like
Like, and
the display piece.
yeah. And like, people are the only thing that last. Like, that's eternal work. Like, that's why I, wherever I'm put in life, right now with kids, but the investment in people will never turn up empty. Material things, jobs, your anything beyond people in the right reason, in the right motivation, it's never going to turn back void. Even if you, can look back at moments in gym time and being like, oh, like, I spent too much time here, or I did this wrong, but like, your heart was still for people. And I think that was what was the connection that, our main connection of being short, and a lot of things being different, is like, I think there was a heart connection. I think there was an openness to that on both of our ends. And even though we were really different, and my mind was always still cautious just because, I'm analytical and like, that's just, it's just always like with reservation, like with people knowing that, like, well, you don't want to be burned and you don't want to like give all your time and you weren't supposed to. But as far as a heart willingness and openness, I think that's where that connection was of, God being able to use you in my life, encourage me through some harder times, like, having just moved, to Michigan, and then like having a second kid and not getting to focus on being an athlete. And that was a big part of my identity. And then, helping my sister and, just like a lot of up and down. But at the same time, I felt like God kept me, like, consistent, because he says like, I'll be faithful. And like, I could see that. And so it was almost like we helped each other in different ways, that my consistency and the faithfulness, and you could see God in that, and that was a huge soul connection for you. And like, your availability to talk with me on a deeper level that most people don't care and don't understand was very big for me too, just to help me process things. And so like, even where I'm at now, I feel like how you helped me, like, I always saw you as kind of like my um like talk psychology or people deeper, like kind of counselor. And like recently, I think end of summer, fall, I started talking to another counselor through a church just to try to go over some of the reasons why, like, I've noticed, that I would be, what you saw in the gym, like very critical on myself, very open for anyone else. And like, but that was becoming a problem because I couldn't identify with my own emotions, like what was going on. And you helped pull that out of me. And so I think because you're able to do that, and then I think without that, then I started noticing that I like had this lack of depth with appreciation for myself, with the Lord. Like, it was like more black and white and analytical. And I was like, I know this is not the depth of where it's supposed to be. And like, so I want to flush that out and talk through that and not always feel so critical, like I'm doing this wrong and I'm doing this wrong and I'm not enough. I should be at the gym more. I should be a better athlete. I should be a better mom. I should be a better, instead of being like, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Like, because my heart is pursuing the Lord and I'm going to make mistakes. And so, like, to be more okay
your,
with
your
that.
intentions are all, like you said, God centered. So
Yeah.
God driven. And
Right.
we also are part of us. So yeah, we're gonna make this choice.
Right.
but it's nothing like if we were just like you said, hopefully I'll run it again.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And, so the allowance, to be more okay with making a mistake and not being so critical of myself. I feel like I have a little bit more objective perspective from God's view of seeing me in love and as his child and like in light versus, just kind of like, oh, like she should be doing better, and that has allowed me to be more present, in just the day to day, like the daily grind of the kids. Like there's more joy there. There's more, like I always felt joy, but I still felt everything was capped or, like had a roof, like, as far as the how much I could experience it, because I would end up back at like I feel this, but I could be doing better. Like I'm working really hard to be a good mom, but so instead of just like um being okay with that, being okay with making mistakes. And so it's yeah, so it's really cool. I don't like to be able to look back at, our few years at the gym and just see kind of like God's hand in that is very cool. And, I'm so appreciative of, that he like allowed us to meet and things went down and like there was a reason for that, at the gym. And like, that we both weren't like, oh, like, just threw up our hands. It was kind of like there's a reason and like we're gonna still be intentional and like I called you and we, figured it out. And like I think that was the thing was like I knew that your heart was for good. And that doesn't mean like people whose hearts can be for good or even for God can still make mistakes, like, but it was the heart of like, well, what's really going on here, and how are you really doing? Because I know that you care. I know that you care for these people. Like I know that you care about what happens. I know that you care about your name, because you've tried to, do well and be helpful. Um, but without that happening, we've both said like
I wouldn't be here.
we won't be here. Right. So my transition like through this whole quarantine and finding a new gym just to work out a little has just been it's been a good fit for me as far as like I'm not in the position to be a high level athlete right now. I mean, I'm naturally athletic. So like when I'm working out, it seems high level, but like, not training to compete or be, and has matched me because it has allowed me grace for myself and room to kind of like notice things about myself and slow down and heal a little bit because it's given me space,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm not in a competitive environment. I'm not always on myself. So it's kind of given me this like, oh, I'm seeing this about myself. And it's been really good for me. So, but without that happening, I would still be there and I would still be like, be better, do better, go, you know? So,
And
yeah.
it's and I love that you that was one of the conversation you pointed that out. You said, if it was any other way, it would be a different way.
Yeah.
Because for me especially, where I was, I get more subtlety now from God. I did not
Mm.
get subtlety
Mm.
because I was too wrapped up in it. It was too much about
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And like a big thing is if people don't like me or people think something of me, well, that's not good. I can't deal with. I can't help have that.
Yeah.
And most people treat you the way they do themselves, not you.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been doing is studying all kinds of stuff that is basically, yes, it's my strength, but it's also not from me necessarily. So Brene Brown, vulnerability. And I'm like, that's one of the things I've always liked is people tend to be more vulnerable with me.
Yeah.
And like you said, I tend to just be, I don't know if it's safe, but you know what I mean? Like I am a deeper, I like the deep connection and it's just
Yeah.
a natural state. And, you know, being vulnerable in front of people is being authentically you, and that's terrifying. Because
Right.
you have this information about me, you can do this, that, and the other thing. And with you, I never felt like that. I was always
Mm.
like, oh, she's got nice hands. Okay, she'll take my heart. And I was aware that you did that and kind of at one point went, hmm, why do I trust this dude so much? And I'm pretty comfortable with him. I don't know if I should be. And you're like, is he really like this? He
Yeah.
actually is like
Yeah.
this. And then you sat down with me like, no, no, it is weird, and he is like this. Like that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So me embracing that I'm a human unicorn, that's a wonderful quality.
Yeah.
Now, is it wonderful for everybody? No, and that's okay because
Yeah.
other people and their actions are not. When I say in my business, that's like an outcome. I have no control over that.
Yeah. Right.
If what I can control is when God puts somebody in my life, I am going to love the best I can and help grow and spread that impact even more and like water that and help it flourish. And what happens happens. That's not up to me. That's it's just like training, right? You can train for competition. Just because you train does not mean you're going to automatically win the competition because
Right.
there's one winner. And
Yeah.
so like, but you can control what you can control. And
Yeah.
Renee Brown talking about vulnerability and just being okay with the authentic self too is that's one of the things I had to be aware of too. Well, what I consider ugliness? Like, where's my lack of grace coming? Because
Yeah.
part of the reason I could see your lack of grace, and this is what she also said is, you know, I'll find it, but it's basically what we point out in others is what we are vulnerable to ourselves. Like the shame
Mm.
we're vulnerable to ourselves, is what we point
Mm-hmm.
out in others. And that's a big deal because what I saw in you is you're like very critical of you and like you never really gave yourself a break. And yet I'm sitting there going, she's kind of killing it. But she really does not believe she's killing it. And then I'm thinking, but I see her coach people and she's absolutely loving to the nth degree the people who she knows can do better. They know she knows can do better and are doing better. And she's still just loving them and showering them with grace. And yet, as soon as she doesn't do something that she might have been doing, I don't know, pre-baby, pre-second baby,
Yeah.
whatever, in the best shape of her entire life, yeah, she's totally judging herself. And but that's one of the things I did too. Like, but I did that with people. So all of a sudden, when people would say, "Oh, I don't like Jeff," or Jeff did this or said this, or I don't know, it was just kind of weird. I know I'm a lot for people,
Mm.
but it's just like, and those aren't necessarily my people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let God work through me a certain way because that's why I screw things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not smart to decipher, or I don't have the discernment. Like you said, I love that, and that's one of the things my dad just said recently a couple times, and now you said, so now I'm going to pray for that. And
There you
that's
go.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
The discernment. I don't better.
Yeah.
Holy does. I barely know most of the time. I'm like, that's why I said, like, if it pops in my heart, you know what? I feel like I'm going to help you in some way.
Yeah.
Sweet. Do not
Yeah.
see what it looks like. And if you ask me, I'm going to be like this. Please don't ask, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what I also used to do is I used to almost make myself small so I could fit in places,
Mm.
or fit in with people.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to tell you that I think I might be able to help impact your life. I didn't want to tell people, you know what? Like reaching back out to Caitlin, she reached out to me and we're friends, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to advocate for her because one of the things she said is I had her interview on here too, and her story is so amazing and impactful. When we did the Athleta Girl program, and she did a talk there,
Oh yeah.
beaming, like, and I remember even at the time going, you could be a speaker about it.
Mm,
Because it's not, it's just like anything. Like when you're talking about something that is in you, like when you were
yeah,
coaching, it's natural because
right,
you're not trying to discern what is God and what's not God. You're letting God go through. You're like,
right.
oh, dude, I got the door for you, bro. I'm gonna hold the door. It's cool. It's right here.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's kind of what I'm trying to do because for me being newer in my journey and my walk at that position, I do get scared like, who am I? Like I lost this gym and I'm this and I
yeah, yeah.
and it's not what are my credentials? And then it's funny, one of the things I just celebrated 30 years sober in January.
Mm,
So,
yeah, that's awesome.
that's crazy. For
Yeah,
some reason, 29 years didn't pop up as a big deal in my head.
yeah,
I'm 30 years sober. I've had some mistakes. I've done some stuff. And I'm still sober. I'm like, wait a minute, dude, God works. Like,
yeah,
that's grace.
right.
But I have several times, and I say several like I'm being nice to myself, a lot of times worked completely at the opposite of my good fortune and
Mm,
come out good.
yeah,
What drives down that sometimes too.
yeah,
All in crap, all in all that. But once again, I think part of that is that intention. Is my intention almost always for the last 30 years pretty much has been to love and help people.
yeah,
And sometimes I get too involved because my ego is there, and and then it basically stops God from working. Um, for a while, I didn't necessarily want to be as God centered and like tell people that.
yeah,
And some people, I'm okay with it, like only because my relationship with God was very much I had to feel like I was invited,
yeah,
demanded,
yeah,
and by me being the journey I went to come to a relationship with Jesus, especially, which is still not, all like, oh, I know the answers in the Bible and this and that. Like, I have way more issues with the Bible than I do connections with the Bible. But I think to an extent, the fact that I'm asking questions or that I care that I have questions,
yeah,
it's cool. Because, like you're saying, it's giving you information and seeing what fits. I don't want to be the same old person.
right.
I want to be wise. I love that you said that. I've always wanted to be wise, not because I wanted to be this human kook, but
Yeah,
because I admire people who are humble. I
yeah,
admire love. I admire people who treat people well when they don't deserve it.
right.
That's hard. Like that's a 20-minute AMRAP of every movement I hate.
Yeah,
Like a 30-minute AMRAP of every movement I hate. Is doing all the stuff that's hard in a loving way. And one of, like you said, you really work on that. You attack that instead of just. I'm not, like I said, I don't. Not always with such a great smile and like, oh God, you put me in such a wonderful position for opportunity, you know. But you attack it. And yes, we wrestle is a great term. I think it's a perfect term.
yeah,
Sometimes I'm like, that's what I want to tap out like I'm done.
yeah,
But I know the outcome is so much more than I can even fathom because I know I'm limited, and I think that's why I'm so grateful for you, um, having that deeper connection because then when you talk to me, I was like, that's what I'm, that's that
yeah.
piece that defies understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And, and for me, I've always been, God really, He meets us, I think, where we are, truly.
Yeah,
And He knows I listen to people. And so He
yeah,
talks to me through people. And it's not shocking that who's he surrounded me with pretty BA people. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should interview all these people who are awesome.
yeah,
and if nothing else, like I said, be able to share it with Jacob and Allison and let them understand here are some of the reasons why I wasn't necessarily home as much. And even,
mm, mm-hmm.
I judge myself super harshly still because, my almost 15-year-old, if you really need me, definitely not for any homework. I'm not helping them at all. I can say check Google just as easy as anybody else.
Right.
Or Allison, most of the times because I'm a guy, she's like, and I'm her dad, so it's like, oh, and because I'm loving and want to be around her, she's like,
Yeah. Triple.
it is, like she doesn't work out with me really anymore.
Okay.
She was my workout buddy. She was,
Yeah.
so since February 20th of last year, Jacob and I have worked out at least once a week, every week. Never.
Whoa.
That's why we just did it today because weird things happen and we weren't able to. And so, and it's funny because sometimes he'll be on his headset just listening to stuff and we just do a workout. And just, a lot of times we'll bench. We'll
Yeah.
do just it. Because at first, the first couple times I was like, well, he's got to get off and he's got to do this. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, no control much. The act of gratitude is not wanting to change things, but appreciating what things are really,
Yeah.
which is what you do, but that's tough.
Yeah.
But since I've done that, once again, shocking, the blessings are ridiculous. And the best thing, like, I was very grateful with people being there because I've gotten close to my family. I've gotten closer to my friends. I've had a deeper relationship with Jesus. And, I'm reading books and I'm connecting all over the place. I'm helping my friends do ministry um, with gyms and working out and stuff like that. I'm helping pay for a podcast for new Christian minister, basically. And what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nuts. I'm
Yeah.
shooting now because people do, because things have worked out. And I know that's not everybody's situation. But for me, because I put God in the center,
Yeah.
everything else was like, I know it's gonna be fine. And
Yeah.
kind of when I gave up to God my addiction, I said, you know what, I'm powerless. I
Yeah.
really I am powerless over controlling pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
Even control this stupid little bug that nobody can see that somehow may have been here for 10 years. Now it's decided to kill people. Like, you got half our dude. Like,
Yeah.
life is gonna kill us. It is gonna win.
Yeah.
And don't take it personally because it's gonna beat everybody. You know. But it's given me such a deeper view of everything, and
Yeah.
being able to share with you and to share you with whoever's gonna ever watch this is being excited for how whatever that looks like in the future. Like things I would have never guessed had I not said, "All right, dude, let's go."
Yeah.
This way, cool. Uh,
Right.
because people are like, "Oh, so what are you doing?" Like life coaching and helping people be more impactful. What does that mean? I don't really know. I read a lot. I uh, motivational speakers and write stuff down. I do my dad diaries. I spend more time with my kids. I'm more invested in the depth of my connections,
Yeah.
and, and I'm so much more fulfilled. My dad and I are doing a Bible study on Tuesday.
Oh, cool.
Me, him, and another guy. So now this, in 2 days we get to do it together.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I've only answered prayers in years and years and years. Like what? Okay,
Yeah.
because God's got such a long game. I don't have the patience for that.
Right. Yeah.
Like my mom was
Yeah.
just about was it whoever built the great temple. He was all like, "I'm rich and I'm gonna build a temple," and God said, "No, your son's gonna do it." What?
Yeah.
Come on, dude. But it's kind of baller. You got it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And I'm really, once again, you were the impetus. And, I have to remember that word. But you really were the springboard for realizing that's what I needed to connect.
Yeah.
You, it was simple. I went, well, why was she the one who reached out to me? And I told everybody because she's got it. And I told everybody. I was like, got it. That's why she reached out to me. I'm sure she wasn't super comfortable doing it. She told me she wasn't super comfortable doing it because she was like,
Yeah.
in 20 directions, like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But like I said, because God was working for you to get to me, to get my ass to be where I needed to be,
Yeah, right.
it was amazing. And
Yeah.
uh, you're a big deal. And I know you're like,
Thanks.
you're a big deal because your story, and I think that's part of it too. I don't know what that means, but I think this is what I feel directed towards telling you, but I don't even want to say write a book because you just helped your dad. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's write a book, but it's definitely something to do with your story and sharing your story. And just, oh gosh, don't hate me or be mad at me or just call me.
I'll be like, God, no, I don't want to do it.
As long as you're not like Jeff now, that's fine. You can yell at
Yeah.
me. I'm fragile.
Yeah.
Oh, but I think because literally, how many people? And I know I touch lots of lives, not because I'm the ball. I'm really not. It's because that's what God created me for. And he's like, no, you're my mouthpiece. This is what you're gonna do. But your energy, it's not. And what it is, it's not about me. I used to always think I need to be the motivational speaker, and I need to be. That's why I don't come up with questions. I don't want to be an interviewer because then it's
Mm,
about interview.
yeah.
No, I want you, the people I talk to say what you want to say. Because guess what? If it's of God, it's going to be useful for somebody somewhere.
Right.
It's not of me and it's not of my opinion. So, I think that might be where something else is. I don't know, but I think it is.
Yeah.
Because your journey it, it is the road less traveled, but it's
Yeah.
also the rewards. I know, you know, I
Yeah.
can't even begin to understand the stress of being. And first of all, like doing this, I could never understand the stress of being an elite athlete. That never happened for me. But I'm an elite coach, and so that's why
Yeah.
I was like, and taking that identity away was not pleasant. I was not a fun
Yeah.
person to be around. So I'm like, hey, you
Yeah.
did it. You did.
Yeah.
And so I think there's so many different levels, ways that maybe you could, if that's something you want to do, which are, that you want to connect and be able to share that with other people to help in that way.
Yeah. Do you want to know what I was asked today?
It's gonna make you laugh because God's got a sense of humor like nobody's business. What is
Like Alex and I hadn't been to church in a few weeks.
hold on.
Oh,
I just want you to know, tell people who are recording this, I didn't speak to you about this beforehand, right?
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure because people tell me this all the time and I'm like, dude, it's funny. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, right. Um, well, like hit and miss depends. If people are visiting, sometimes we don't go in because the kids, are watched and, whatever, COVID, all that stuff. So we've been hit and miss this whole season. So we went in today, like after service, like our pastor just like found us and he's like, just want to put a plug in your ear about sharing your testimony to me. I was like, where'd that come from? Yeah, it felt like out of left field because I'm like, okay, sure. It's like, you don't have to, just think about it. I'm like, I mean, I'm open, just like, so there you are. You're saying it too. But yeah, it's one of those, and what I was thinking about when you said that and when he said that, because I've shared my story before. I've been in leadership groups, Bible studies in college. I've been in like small groups, just where you share your story. And I felt always open to it because I'm like, sure, I'll talk about anything. Like, but it was always how I talked about my story, I feel like was kind of the highlights or the lowlights. Yes, yes, exactly. And like there's this sense now of like that piece that you're talking about. Like I've had that, like I've held, but now I feel like I'm holding it more. I've had it, I've known that it's there. I feel like now it's starting to take root, where it's like to see God's hand of faithfulness, throughout, like, especially now getting older. You're gonna hate me for saying that. But like approaching 30 and it's like, oh, Like, I can't just go 100% all the time doing something for everybody. And, like, this is about, rooting yourself, in a culture and everything that always is like, do more. And like you said,
It's more grand.
yeah, yeah, not connection if you disagree, not connection in the little things, isolation, it's falling apart, but like God says, like, I am the same. I always have been. I am who I am. And like the depth of that, like who God is something like we don't comprehend. It's like it's perfect humility, it's perfect goodness, it's perfect justice. So we try to box God and we're like, well, he has to be bad because evil things happen, or he has to be um unjust because it seems like he's just like you do, like, no, he's perfect love. So when we submit to that, because he created us and he said, I loved you, when we trust that, trust the process and trust God, like there is that depth and that peace that does not make sense. And that's something now that I feel like, well, maybe that's just my story, like, sure, there's all these things like, my growing up and it wasn't great, and like it wasn't terrible though. So like, really, is that anything to talk about? But it's like, well, that's not the point, like, of course, yeah, me. It's fine. Everything's fine because it wasn't the worst.
Fine.
It was fine. But
Hmm.
God's hand, like that's what a testimony is supposed to be anyway, or a story. It's like, how do you see God's hand in your life? Not have you had the worst thing ever
Well,
possible happen to
Paul
you.
Brown, one of his statements is there can't be a testimony without any test.
Yeah,
Like it's in the word. And you're like,
right.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's, like I think something I valued this year with having quarantine COVID, like having my birthday was like pretty soon into it. And I had this, it just was serene. It was like we were stuck at home and like, but it was just like I'm thankful for the things that I have that I don't even need. Like Christ has said, like you are, like I'm all you need, even if everything else is stripped away. And that I feel like has been kind of my theme, is like rooted in Christ. And the lady I talked to, like my counselor, gave me this analogy, and like I feel like I knew this in my head, but it's just now this visual, and like it's so pervasive to me. Like this theme of this year is like when you trust in Christ, that like he came and did for you what you could not do for yourself. Be perfect, and mend that relationship with God so that you can have a fullness of life and a fullness of afterlife. um that like you're like a tree, and so your identity is in Christ. You're rooted, you're a living tree, and the branches that come off of it are different roles in your life: an athlete, a mom, a sister, but those are branches. They might break, they might fall down. God might say like, closure on this right now, but like those are roles, but your identity stays the same. And she was like, a lot of times, people's trouble with maybe feeling anxious or lost or confused or struggling or just really any number of things is when your identity is in one of the branches, right? And like, yeah, you can see that clearly with like your role in the gym, but like I I guess I never like saw myself as dealing with that, but I definitely, like that's why I struggled. I think a lot of times I feeling spread too thin. It was like my role, is like, okay, well, I can't be the best mom and I can't be like an amazing athlete because I'm trying to take care of little kids too. And it's like, well, those things don't shape who I am as a daughter in Christ, because this stays the same.
Correct.
And that's been
Those
rooted
things
for
are an
me.
expression of what you are.
Right.
Yes.
It is. Yeah, it's like personality. It's like different parts of me,
Yeah.
but when they're centered, that's the tree of life. Like that's where you're getting your nourishment and your life and your joy and your peace. And so that can enter those roles, but those roles don't define who you are, which is why, I mean, I remember for you this transition, you've been drawn to like working with athletes even after, and people athletes who were getting out of being athletes, transitioning to normal world, and that they a lot of times struggle is because their identity has been so heavily in that one role, instead of that their identity never should have been just that one role. and that's why they're feeling lost and confused. Well, who am I apart from that? You know? And that's something I feel like I want to share with others too, is like, you can have this solid identity, in who you are in Christ, that he created you uniquely and that you're used for a purpose. Like if you want to be part of his team, and that never has to fail, because Christ doesn't fail. That's what's so exciting, is like, yeah, you might mess up in some of your roles, but this won't fail because he's covered you. But
And once again, if that's the center,
yeah.
it's like it, it, it makes other things, when I say easier,
Yeah.
simpler.
Yeah. Simpler.
Simpler.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, how funny is that I said, maybe you need to be sharing a story, and you're like, oh, funny thing. That's happened to me my whole life. And so that's why I'm like, but it's just happening a lot more. But
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go with what God and well, I'm gonna say this because like first time I met this one person who I'm actually helping with his ministry and workouts and stuff like that is the second time. First time I met him, I was like, oh, I got to know him and his brother, and the second time I said something to the brother about each one, the twins,
Mm.
and I was like, how come he hasn't thought of maybe being a minister? Like,
Hmm.
it's kind of weird. Like this other one, I was like, maybe music and stuff. Come to find out, that was what they were thinking about. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I could be part of that conversation. Weird. You know what I mean? And
Right.
but it's what I think too is what I am grateful for is because God knows how I receive information. I and I don't think it always happens like this, but He gives me some of those affirmations to be like, okay, yes, you're still on the correct road.
Yeah.
Okay, did you see this? Like you saying, funny you should say that. So like, okay, so the fact that I want to throw up because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna say this to him, this might be weird or whatever, blah blah blah. No, I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna try to prejudge any outcome because that's what
Yeah.
like I'm in charge of the branches.
Yeah.
Here, I, I barely prune the center part of this tree. Like, come on, I'm not.
Yeah. You have baby roots.
I have baby roots, but I also what I like now is the humility of being humble
Yeah.
and having that identity taken away. It puts things in perspective. So,
Yeah.
I was able to train a couple people for quite a while, stuff like that. And one of them got a job, so here is COVID still is a thing. So in
Yeah.
February, I think we're gonna, once it gets a little less crazy, we're gonna go back to training stuff. But I went from training, hundreds of people a week to one. But I tell you what, I was super grateful, and I was super, you know, it didn't matter whether it was one or 100, and so I still wanted to be a better coach. I wanted to be better, and so I like that, like what you're saying, that meat is getting deeper. Yes, there's people maybe
Yeah.
it's it really is getting deeper, and that's what I'm focused on. That's why I'm
Right.
doing so much reading. That's why I'm doing Bible study. That's why I'm doing Bible study twice a week
Yeah.
with groups because I hear different things.
Yeah.
And so one of the some of the goals that I set up, like something simple, is to tell myself was brush my teeth and floss every day. Because let's be honest, I'm gonna be honest, it was not always every day.
Yeah.
So, and the best part is when mom's going to dentist, and sister-in-law is going to dentist, and I'm sure that anybody ever watches the stuff like today, each one, eat every time. Okay. But once again, guess what? I've been doing like whatever days, and I'm super proud of myself. And I said this the other day to somebody who was really struggling with, I don't know what God wants me to do. And I literally said, listen, I showed him, I said, one of my goals,
Yeah.
brush my teeth and floss every day. And
Yeah.
then guess what? No matter what, if I do that thing, maybe it's make your bed, maybe it's whatever, read one verse in the Bible. It's the action, because that's what we can control, is the investment into God. And
Yeah.
when I'm not berating myself, I'm more available to miracles.
Right.
That's why I think I would always kind of say stuff to you about being a little more graceful to yourself and self-tolerant, because I'm like, maybe you're not the worst POS around, but maybe you are, I don't know, like that. And so I love that you're continuing to have a check and balance,
Yeah.
because you having just to rely on yourself to see if you're right. And you knew you're like, something's off,
Yeah.
something's off. So like how I'm super proud of yourself because
Yeah.
you started out, so you won. That's a lot of spiritual maturity. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you said that, I was really proud of you.
Thank you. I know. Oh yeah, my internal monologue. It's like, you're wrong. You just
I would love if you just verbalize your entire monologue per day, because
seriously.
it'd be fantastic. Because it would make all the facial expressions you make sometimes make sense.
I know. Alex will say that sometimes. He's like, what was that? And I'm like, what? Like, I genuinely don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, what? He's like, you just made like 10 facial expressions right there. And I was like, oh. I was like, well, yeah, I was thinking of this and then this and this and this and this like in 30 seconds.
They're going, you just overwhelmed me. I'm tired now. That's weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You can go do that over there, please. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
all right.
But,
Once
yeah.
you want to say anything else? Because before I'm gonna stop recording, but then you can talk if you want to. I just wanted to because I felt like that was kind of an okay moment,
Yeah.
because once again I got to play one more thing on Friday.
Yes. Thank you.
So,